And welcome to the Aaron Katzman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katzman. We speak to your life, your money, and your investments. And as always, we're coming to you from the spiritual and soon-to-be financial capital of the world, Jerusalem, Israel. If you like this content, please hit the like button below. And if you've not yet done so, please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and to our podcast. So we're continuing on in our entrepreneurship series, and it's my honor to bring on the show Dr. Azi Jankovic, an entrepreneur, educator, and resilience mentor. She inspires and guides people to overcome any challenge, achieve emotional freedom, and unlock their desired results in life and business. She's been living in Israel for a couple of years. She's got a good story because she comes from like San Diego, and she's here with her husband and her 4 children. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Aaron. So nice to be here.
I appreciate that. So what is, first of all, a resilience mentor?
It's so funny. In the last year, I've literally changed my bio like 5 times. And I think being resilient is all about being open and being willing to adapt to change, to adapt to the needs and the really what people are looking for when they work with you, and being open to landing on your feet no matter what happens. So I do some coaching and some guiding. I do work with entrepreneurs. I work with entrepreneurs in groups. And something that I've recently gotten into, and of course I haven't updated my bio, is guiding those entrepreneurs through the process of making videos and being visible online, on social media, and anywhere and everywhere that you can use a video. So being a resilience mentor and working with entrepreneurs definitely comes in hand over there, because for most people, as perhaps you know, going on camera is not always the most natural experience. It's not something we're all so comfortable with. I mean, definitely during Zoom, I think we become more so in a conversation, but to sit in front of that camera and, speak into the lens is another level.
I'll tell you,
So that's what I've been that's what I've been doing recently, a lot of.
I have a background. I used to work in a pirate radio station here
Really?
for many years, and I love radio. And I always used to say that famous line, "I've got a face for radio." So my question is, that's part of the reason people don't necessarily like to be
What is
on
pirate
camera.
radio, by the way?
Pirate radio is a radio station. There was an English radio station that always thought they were going to be licensed and never did get licensed
Oh,
by the
okay.
authorities. And then they got raided, and we'll leave all the dirty, all the bad stuff. We'll leave aside. So,
Okay.
um, how did you get into this? Right? How does one get into guiding? Let's say, guiding business owners, entrepreneurs, people. How do you sort of fall into this type of line of work?
So on one hand, I blame aliyah, and on the other hand, I'm grateful for aliyah because it was a total pivot. And, in the States, for many years, I'd been in education. I was a classroom teacher. And then I went on to be an education specialist. And then I did research. I got a doctorate. And then I moved to Israel. And it was time to pivot for a number of reasons. I didn't really, at the time, I didn't have academic Hebrew, so I wasn't going to go into teaching in a university. And I gave myself some time to pursue my passions, one of which was writing about spirituality. So in 2019, I wrote a book. It's called Beyond All Things: Insights to Awaken Joy, Purpose, and Spiritual Connection. And as soon as the book was released, I learned very quickly that books don't market themselves. And I went out and I called together a group of entrepreneurs, and I had a heart to heart with them. And I said, listen, I just wrote a book and I know some things about books and some things about social media, but I really don't know how to market this book. So can we put our heads together? I'll help you, you help me. And after we did this for a few weeks, I really put my teacher hat on. I had everybody setting goals. I literally, Aaron, was Googling, how do you facilitate a mastermind? And that's how I started. And after a couple weeks, one of the women in my group, I'll always credit her for this. Her name is Hannah Mason, and she's a coach, and she's in the space of, she's written books and teaching and coaching and in the online course space. So she asked me, she said, Ozzy, these 3 weeks have been amazing for my business. What if I pay you to do more of these things? And at first it was like, who am I to do this? You know, all of the self-doubt that so many entrepreneurs have in the beginning. Who's going to come? You know, what makes me credible? All that stuff. But I did it, and it grew over time. It grew over the years, and that's how I got in the space of guiding and helping entrepreneurs. And actually, the story takes a turn about a year and a half ago when I had a personal brand, I had my podcast, and I had these, you know, higher ticket coaching programs that I was running. And I actually had to step away from it. I went on a trip. I went to go visit my best childhood friend, and her son had died.
Huh.
And over the course of that trip, I just had this, you know, real awakening to the fact that, yes, I loved what I was doing as an entrepreneur, and I was making good money with these groups. I was helping a lot of people, but I had put my family aside. I was working in the evenings to work with my American clients, and, you know, my priorities had just gotten totally out of whack. So I came back from this trip and I just started canceling. And I took a step away from it. During that step away, I started working with my husband, who has a video production company, and it was more of like a day job. Like, I could go on LinkedIn, I could do the social media, I could market, but I didn't have that drive to like work all day and night. And over the course of that, Erin, I realized so much that all of the entrepreneur clients could really use some hand holding and some coaching when it comes to video. So then I was able to like merge these two, and this is totally recent. It happened in the last 4 months or so. And this is one of my new projects.
So you're a twice pivoter. You've made
You know
two
what?
pivots since you've come to Israel.
And
That's
this won't be
amazing.
the end. This won't be the end. You know, it really won't be the end. I'm always about growing and evolving, and I believe in it so much.
You know, work-life balance issues are obviously, you know, all the rage, have been the rage for a long time already. I think it's something I've never focused with on you know, doing these interviews, but it's something we all go through. But you actually brought it up. You know, that
Yeah.
to be a successful entrepreneur, at least at the beginning, there's huge amounts of sacrifice, right? So how do you, obviously you pivoted out of it, right? But because work-life balance took precedence over work, right? But speak a little bit about that and that process and how you
Yeah,
got to
you
where
know,
you got to.
it's so true. It is such a buzzword, and ultimately I think it's really personal. For example, you know, just last night it came up for me that we got a new potential client, and someone on the team wanted to have a meeting late at night. And on one hand, I'm so excited to get this process going with this new client that I wanted to take that 9 p.m. Zoom call. But I stopped myself because for me to have work-life balance, I need to practice self-care. And for me, self-care looks like not being on the computer after 9 p.m. So I think ultimately it boils down to having the confidence to know that not everything is urgent, to be able to prioritize and ultimately realize, which, you know, I made this mistake, I learned the hard way, that we have to take care of ourselves in order to take care of our businesses.
Definitely good advice for somebody who's been an entrepreneur for many years, right? I just tell my
Awesome.
little part of my story. I started out, and you know, there wasn't a meeting I wouldn't take, right? Because you're starting from scratch, right? You've got to put food on the table. It's like there's some stress at the beginning, right? You believe that you're going to be okay, but you know, practically, it's not so simple. And you take that meeting whenever, wherever it is, and you take all those kinds of meetings, and then, you know, you're sacrificing a lot because, you know, vis-a-vis your family, because you've got to get your business off the ground. And at some point, I think
Totally.
you've got to figure out that middle ground, right? Like, okay, I've gotten to a place where I can step off the gas pedal a little bit, and I also don't have to take those meetings anymore, right? I'm in charge, you know, and I don't have to sacrifice
Certainly.
everything. Yeah, it's an
Certainly, yeah. And I'm sure, like, I'm sure that over the years, you've also gotten better in deciphering which are the meetings that are going to be right for you to take and which ones you can, you know, let go of.
Right. It's the thing, you know, everybody goes through that. It's just experience
Yep.
over time and willing to give it up, right? That's I think a hurdle a lot of entrepreneurs can't get over, right? How can I give up business, right? How can I give up a meeting? It's not such a simple thing.
Yeah, it's not. And it's interesting too, in the Jewish fold, with so many clients and myself included, observing the Sabbath and not working on the Sabbath, I think we already in many ways practice that. We put the value of Shabbat before taking those potential meetings. So I think if we can, keep that in mind and see that we're already doing it, we can be mindful of that throughout the week.
So you grew up in San Diego, right?
I did.
Did you have a fire in you, or did you know that you were gonna own your own business, or did you grow up, with parents who owned their own business, or is this something that was natural, that's where you were headed, or not at all?
It's such a good question. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, well, okay, so my mom was an educator,
Uh-huh.
and my great grandmother was actually the first female principal,
Oh
school
wow.
principal in Los Angeles.
Wow.
So I always had this like iconic, role model in education. And my father was actually an entrepreneur. He transitioned from being an employee to an entrepreneur when I was around 9. So I saw the benefit of entrepreneurship. Whereas, when he was an employee, he was busy. He was very, very busy. And as an entrepreneur, he could come home for dinner. Even if it meant he might be working later, he could, create his own schedule. So I definitely saw that as a benefit. But in all honesty, for many years, I didn't feel like I knew anything about business. I was in the field of education. I was a teacher. Most girls, especially, grow up and their professional role models are teachers. It's a lot of women go that route because it's all we see. So that's what I did. And in terms of becoming an entrepreneur, I think it was something more so that happened over time. And again, because of, Israel being here and having to reinvent myself and just staying present with what are people asking me for and how can I charge money for that in a way that enables them to be accountable and to implement, and that energizes my business so I can really do more of it.
So you mentioned something which is very intriguing to me, and that's you're a dual entrepreneur family, right? That you've got a family business, right? So how how does that work exactly vis-a-vis, working with your husband? Do you have like, you know, I don't know, rules, defined rules, but to separate sort of work and family and work and relationship and all
Yeah.
those kinds of things, like how do you sort of navigate that area?
It's such a good question, Aaron. It definitely has not been a straight line. I remember years ago, so my husband went to film school, which is where we met, and he was working in television the first year we were married. And as soon as our daughter was born, we realized again, this work-life balance thing just wasn't happening. He was so lucky if he could get home on a Friday, like a minute before Shabbat, because that's just not the culture in Hollywood. So at one point I said to him, like, honey, you went to film school because you want to make movies that can help people and that can inspire people and do good in the world. Why don't you just start, I don't know, editing people's home videos? And that was when our first video company was born. It was called Fam Media, like Family Media. And, he took the front and center, like the primary role, actually doing the production and the filming and the editing. And we always spoke about it. I was, working as a teacher, but we always had these incredible conversations. And I think what enabled us to work together so much is that we both really cared about the work that we were doing. And I wasn't really, stepping on any toes because we were just strategizing and really discussing the marketing and the conversations, all the things that go into interacting with people and running a business. So over the years, things evolved, and now we definitely still have those conversations. The business grew from editing home videos to then bar mitzvah videos and then fundraising videos, and now it's corporate videos and really everything full service, commercials, clips for social, you name it. But it's been a process, like figuring out who does what and who has the final say in this or that. And ultimately, I think it boils down to allowing yourself to know that it's going to be a little messy and there's going to be a learning curve, and being committed to pivoting, staying resilient, and putting your relationship above anything else.
So you actually were entrepreneurs in America, and then you came to Israel and you have your own business in Israel. How is it to own a business in Israel in terms
A
of
tax nightmare.
it's a tax nightmare, okay?
I'm being totally honest with you. It is a tax nightmare. I mean, we don't have to talk too much about it, but it was just easy in America. Your accountant wasn't calling you 5 times a day, asking you about all your receipts. And it's not easy to run a business here in Israel. It is not for the faint of heart. And it hasn't been easy in that regard. I'm being really honest with you.
Mm-hmm. What other issues? I mean, the bureaucratic, those kinds of technical issues, right? The accountants and the lawyers, and you know, that's the kind of those are the issues, not the actual business itself, right?
I mean, there's all kinds of challenges that come up with, working in Israel. In the beginning of working here, neither one of us had Hebrew enough to take on Hebrew speaking clients. So that was a big limitation. Fortunately, now that is no longer an issue. We work with Israeli companies, organizations, English, Hebrew, all of the things. So that's one hurdle I would say, any entrepreneur coming here, it can be really, really helpful to learn Hebrew. And depending on who your ideal client is, I would say, go for it, do it. What else? Other challenges? Is that what you want to talk about?
Yeah.
It's a good question. Well, working in Israel challenges. Gosh, I have to say, like, the first thing that comes to my mind is the incredible benefit of being here, which I'm sure you can relate with, that people want to meet, people want to connect, people want to have a coffee, people want to help you, they want to introduce you,
right? That's
yeah,
the
we want
coolest
to.
thing. People really want to help you. Yeah, it's really
everybody
interesting.
wants to help each other. So that's just been awesome.
And there's like a satisfaction. Do you ever like sort of just stop and think and say like, wow, I've got a business in a foreign country, in a foreign language, and it's doing well? And do you ever think about that? I think about
This morning, it's so funny because this morning my husband and I were having our business meeting, sitting on the balcony drinking coffee, and he was telling me about the shoot last night that they were at with all of these army generals, and everything was in Hebrew. And I just looked at him, I thought, gee, like, this really would not have happened 8 years ago. It's incredible.
Do you have a tip, like one tip for somebody out there who's watching, who's either thinking about making aliyah, is already here and wants to have a business here? What would be your sort of golden tip?
My golden tip for making it work here is make sure you know why you're doing what you want to do, and make sure that you are so devoted to serving, and you're so devoted to your intention of helping and making an impact that you're not going to be put off by the potential hurdles that could come in front of you. The taxes, the bureaucracy, the double taxes. Let's just be really straight here. And there's a lot. Making aliyah is a really, really big deal. And as long as you're committed to why you're doing what you're doing, you can get through it. As long as you know your why, you can bear anyhow. And also be open to an incredible place where the people are so warm, so welcoming, so supportive, and where we all have this shared experience of having made aliyah.
That's great. Wow, that was really good. How can people, this is really interesting. How can people get in touch with you?
Sure. So really there are 2 websites you can find me on, but if you want to get in touch with me directly, you can email me. I'm Azi, A-Z-I, at keshervideo.com, KESHERVIDEO. And you can check out our page, keshervideo.com. Also my personal brand. I have a podcast. I got a lot going on. So if you want to chat with me, just shoot me an email.
And we'll put up all those links and everything
Cool.
on the notes of the show as well, so people can just click and find you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks,
this is
Aaron.
really, really interesting.
Thanks so much.
You've been tuning into the Aaron Katzman Show, where we speak to you about your life, your money, and your investments. If you liked this video, and I'm sure you did, please hit the like button below. And if you've not yet done so, please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and to the podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you soon.